Well, I've had 2 weeks to have material for this stream, and really nothing worth mentioning has happened. The most notable thing that everyone wants to fucking talk about, even though it doesn't really matter to me at all, is the former Prime Minister of Japan, and that's the former Prime Minister, not the current Prime Minister of Japan. Uh, Shinzo Abe has been assassinated. He is now dead. If you don't know, a couple hours ago, a Japanese man with a makeshift, essentially a blunderbuss. It was two pipes, some black powder, and a battery that would ignite the powder, and it was filled with like junk. And he shot the former prime minister while he was on a uh, giving a speech, I think, about promoting another candidate because the Japanese like the parliamentary elections are in 2 weeks, so they're on the campaign trail. He decided to shoot him. I don't think his motives are particularly well understood. I think he said that he just doesn't like the guy, so that's why he killed him, which is a general. That's why most people kill people, is because they don't like him. Though if there's like a political extremist bent to it, it's not known. What's particularly interesting to me, though, is that everyone is upset about this, and I really don't know why. I can tell you precisely zero facts about Shinzo Abe, except that he tried to promote sex in between Japanese people. He said that people need to start having sex and they need to start making babies, and apparently that upset the anime watchers of the island, and he wasn't. I guess he wasn't popular with them. He was not like a hardcore nationalist conservative. That's it. So I don't know why people are upset, except that they like Japan. If this was the former paramount leader of China, I think his name was Hu Jintao or something. If that guy got shot, everyone would be like, "Dude, that's so epic. That's base. Finally, political assassinations are back on the table. The social fabric of China is falling apart." And it's like, oh, so when it's a Japanese guy, it's very sad, and everybody liked him. But if it was somebody else, you'd all be very happy about it. I find that a bit hypocritical. None of you know anything about Japan. I don't like. I'm gonna say I don't like Japanese people in general. I know I've said I don't like anime. I want to lay it out on the table. I have been to Japan. I don't like them. They're weird. When the U.S. made Emperor Hirohito say that he was not a god, like an actual avatar of the divine walking on this earth, it actually caused mass shock and panic and mourning in Japan. They actually thought that he was a god because they're stupid, and they hate you. In case you're like, oh man, Japan is like, if you're like PewDiePie, oh man, Japan's like so cool. And there's like all these Japanese people who are like so autistic and cool, and they know how to make like sake from like wood and shit, and they do it like in the 2,000 year traditional style. It's like so cool, man. They hate you. They speak Japanese. They don't speak any English. Out of like all the countries in the world, I think I know fewer Japanese people than anybody else. You only meet Japanese people when you're like in some anime community. There's like Chinese people. I know there was a guy on the forum. I think he's even a moderator. He's like from Saudi Arabia. I know more Saudi Arabian people than I do Japanese people, because even Saudi Arabians are like less insular and autistic than Japanese people. And he's like, they talk about how fucking stupid Westerners are and how gross and cringe they are, and they stay on their own websites, and they just hate you. And you're all like, oh my god, they're so cool and artisanal. They make rice crackers in such a awesome base traditional way. I was like, who gives a fuck? They bombed your country without even declaring war. They just showed up at your doorstep and started dropping bombs on your ships. And 70 years later, you're like, oh my god, they invented so much. They invented tentacle pornography. They found out a way to make wristwatches affordable. Oh, I love Mitsubishi cars. They're so cheap and dependable. Like what a retard. Dead mutts sound good to you? Well, you're Chinese. Well, no, you're not even Chinese. You're Vietnamese. You should not be supporting the Japanese, considering they fucking colonized you for a brief period of time. They would have held on to you too. if the U.S. didn't intervene, if that bloodthirsty cripple FDR didn't have it out for the Japanese, then maybe you would be speaking Japanese. Is Josh going through puberty? I don't know. Probably not. I am 30. I'm almost 30. They did warn us. We lied about it being a sneak attack. It was like 9/11. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they fucking warned us that they were gonna bomb our fucking ports. That's bullshit. Um, Japan. God, Western fans of Japan are like, I can't even imagine it. It's like what is it? What is it about Japan that is like so alluring to people? You know what it is? Is that it's like it's still like isolationist, and that makes it like mysterious and alluring. Like, oh, they still have their language, and they still have like their faith where they like honor the ancestors and stuff. It's so cool. It's like, no, it's not. You know, they had that in Ethiopia. I think the real reason is that the age of consent in Japan is 13, depending on what province you go to. I think their weird obsession with like child sex is the real reason that people obsess over fucking Japan, and their stupid fucking cartoons. They're emotionally stunted cartoons for emotionally stunted people. They're sexy cartoon women that are written and drawn by autistic men for autistic men. That's the real allure of Japan. No, dude, 16 is minimum. No, it's not. It's 13 federally. Depending on the prefecture, it depends on it varies. I think 16 is the minimum without being married. It's like when people point out the age of marriage or age of consent with marriage is like 13 in some states. I'm not sure. I think like Texas, if the parents agree on it. But yeah, I don't know. And then all the sex trafficking in Tokyo is so base and trad. We used to have sex trafficking like that in our country. Josh, why do I know this? Because I have been yelled at by animes for my entire life. I think even back on the Blockland forums, I fucking hated anime and I hated people that watched anime. And these discussions will be brought up all the time. Um, Socially, you can't go fucking around kids in Japan. Who's gonna? They don't even report rape in Japan. They don't report like if you molest a woman in Japan and you're Japanese, probably if you're Japanese, if you're not Japanese, you can't get away with it. But they don't report that shit. It's such a shitty country, and everyone is just so obsessed with it. It's truly bizarre. Like PewDiePie, even PewDiePie gets married to like this Italian woman, and he's like a Nordic guy, and then he goes to England. He moves to England, and he gets so depressed that he's like, I'm gonna go to Japan. And then 2 years later, he's now in fucking Japan. He's abandoned his homeland. He has no children yet. I'm sure Marzia doesn't even want kids, and they're just gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna have ugly fucking dogs, and we're gonna live in Japan, and we're gonna kill ourselves. Oh. There are 5 countries where women are more likely to be murdered than men. Japan is one. I did not know that. All right, whatever. Fuck Japan. Oh, this was the assassin, by the way, and this is his weapon. He just shot the guy, and someone looked at it. It's 2 pipes, some wires connected to batteries, and then a trigger assembly, and it's just loaded with black powder. So he literally just duct taped this shit together with electrical tape and killed a politician. So despite having some of the strongest gun restrictions in the entire world, nature and life found a way. It glows. Dude, I swear that is the best thing that the feds have ever pulled off, is to make everybody think that anything anybody does ever is a federal op. Apparently nobody can take initiative and do anything on their own. There is no such thing as domestic terrorism. There is only federal ploys. So it's like when Brenton Tarrant happened. How many people said that he was like working for Mossad? Uh, it's truly bizarre. I think that's deliberate because they want people to be like afraid of each other, and they want people to be suspicious and like, oh, no, nobody can actually ever do anything. It's all federal. The only things that ever happen are permitted by the government. Nothing ever happens unless the government says that it can happen, and they managed to convince people of this. Okay. Oh, and I complained that there wasn't much to talk to, so I got two things to mention that I have no clue about, but which people requested that I talk about. Uh, this. Where did he get the knowledge to just make a gun out of gunpowder at Night of the Internet? You fucking Google it. I'm sure if you Google it, how do this without a VPN, by the way. Just go to Google and type in how to make a pipe bomb. And I'm sure you can find the Anarchist Cookbook, which is a fucking book that's been around for 50 fucking years and can teach you with household ingredients how to make a pipe bomb. Like this is not like arcane knowledge. You know what it's this is stuff that anyone can easily find. You don't have to be trained at the CIA. You're not having to go to Virginia to take a 2-week course on how to make a pipe bomb or a gun. It's literally out there that anybody can find. This is what I mean. It's like people are trained to think nobody could possibly figure this out without being educated by the federal government. Only the federal government has this forbidden knowledge. There was a guy in the UK. In the UK, of course, is a place that wants to now restrict the sale of knives that have a tip because so many Arabs are stabbing each other in London that they're thinking, we should now regulate cutlery because this is now the biggest public threat that we have. There was a guy in the UK who managed to make very formidable, fully automatic weapons. And he made everything by himself. He made the brass by himself. He cut the brass by himself. He made the gunpowder by himself. He made the pipes by himself, and they were like real guns that could be fired at a high, rounds per minute. And he made it in the UK with nothing but like a workbench and shit he bought at Home Depot. And this does not require government training. There are books on how to do this. Ludi SMGs. PA Ludi, that's his name. It's like, yeah, anybody on K knows that this is not, but people in Pol, they don't know that. Like, oh, you have to be trained. You have to, like, in order to make black powder, you have to be imported into Mossad, and you have to take a weekend course on it. Look, this guy. Anarchist Cookbook is literally fed up. The info is there to make you kill yourself. Just buy a U.S. Army improvised munitions manual. Okay, well, there you go. Anyways, it's so tiring dealing with like the internet, and then like whenever anything happens, just like the first reactions by 99% of people are like the dumbest possible takes, and you just watch it and you're thinking like, God, people are really fucking stupid. There's a thing I remember seeing, and it was a story about how during the Japanese occupation of Korea they corralled all the prisoners of war up, and they were trying to figure a way how to keep rebellion at a minimum. And during their study of the prisoners, they found that about 1 in 20 of them were problems. And they took all the problems and they put them into a different camp that was more secure. And then the other 19 out of 20 were left in the general population. And the Japanese discovered that with those 1 in 20s removed from the general population posed essentially no risk. They would do whatever you told them without question, and they didn't even need walls. If you just told them like, okay, we're going to be cutting, timber today, you don't even need to restrain them. They would just do what they were told. And that was 95% of the population. The other 5% were people who were rowdy and could cause issues. And it's like that in real life, I think. I think that's probably about how many of people are just completely mindless. That's the NPC percentage, is 19 out of 20. And then probably in that other 1 out of 20, it's like a pyramid. 1 out of 20 of them are people who are like actually game changers. Then you have 1 out of 20 of them are seriously important people that control huge swaths of society. And it's like that. Anyways.